Hi, this is Reg Athwal, and welcome to another episode on our show. I'm really delighted to have a dear friend of mine, an expert, an authority, Mr. David Taylor, who's on our show today. And I can't wait to ask him a bunch of questions about his brand, the Naked Leader and beyond. So let me give you a formal introduction, tell you a bit more about David. He's a recognized global authority on leadership. He unleashes the unlimited potential within us all, enabling people, teams, and organizations to achieve levels of success never thought possible. His clients range from chief executives to world leaders and from athletes to those in greatest need. And he'll tell us more about that in this episode. He is the founder of Naked Leader, author of the fastest selling business book in the world. Wow. Can't wait to find out more how that was done. The Naked Leader and 4 global follow-ups since, and I believe there's some new books out with not the Naked Leader brand. We're going to find out about as well from David. Outside of this, he's been featured on 3 TV series and keynoted now in over 74 countries. Over 1 million people have attended a David Taylor event and experienced his wisdom and insights. He's also the business ambassador of the Prince's Trust. He's an honorary professor at Leadership, Ulster University Business School, and I'm sure part of many other faculties around the world. So on that note, I'd like to welcome my dear friend, David Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Reg, and hello to everyone wherever you are today. And thank you for that lovely and very kind and means a lot to me introduction.
I appreciate it. So David, the Naked brand, Naked Leader, I'd like to get into it. How did you come up with this name? 2000, I think you launched your first book around 2002, 2003, is that right?
The book was in 2002. I left corporate life in 1998, became an independent, and a good friend of mine, I'm sure you've heard of him, Rene Carriot. Rene Carriot said to me, can I give you 3 pieces of advice? And he said, write a book, write a book, write a book. So I decided to write a book. And originally it was called The 10-Second Truth, the idea being, Reg, that you can change anything in your life in under 10 seconds. I now believe that actually you can change anything in your life in a heartbeat. We were watching Jamie Oliver. I basically finished the book. And it was a front to back book, as all these books are. The ones behind you and the ones behind me. And we were watching Jamie Oliver. My daughter was 5, Olivia. And she leaned forward and said, Naked Chef, and pointed at me and said, Naked Leader. And that basically is where the brand came from. The next thing that happened was that she said, why is it that people write non-fiction business leadership books just like novels? So why don't you make it a choose your own adventure? And that's where the whole idea of going on whatever journey you choose, because it's about them as a person, not about me as an author. So the brand itself has evolved into really fulfill the promise of your first few seconds to ensure no regrets in your last. So that's, and also stripping away the hype, jargon, and mystery from all this stuff.
Can I ask you, David, from I think it's genius. I mean, the title, they say, if I think about my library, your library behind you, and anyone going into a bookshop, at the end of the day, they have to be drawn in with the title, don't they? If the title doesn't grab them.
Well, I always say that the most important, anyone who wants to write a book, I always say the most important thing is the title. I mean, I have in this secret wardrobe here 7 titles which I'm going to use. I don't actually know what the book's going to be about, but the seven titles are forgive me. For every 7 titles come up with the 700 I've rejected. It's the title is all, because I don't know if you know this, Reg, only 10% of these business, let me call them self-help, mind, body, spirit type books are ever opened. And only 1% are ever read. That's incredible. That's why the first line in my second book is "Thank you for reading this far," because I know so few people are actually going to open it and look at it.
Yeah,
I've got
the
blue one. The blue one. You see the first line in that one is "Thank you for reading this far." So I mean, there's lots of these books around, but basically the message of my books is not be the very best you can be. Not be more than what you've become, but just be the very best you already are, because there's nothing wrong with you.
So I want to deep dive into some of the key things in your books. So you've got in the first book 7 principles of naked leadership. There's some really good things there. Success is a formula, and it is simple. The formula does not belong to anyone; it belongs to everyone. To be successful, you need to rely on one other than yourself. Could you expand on some of these principles?
Well, I'd like to talk about the main principle, which is the formula for guaranteed success, because you might think, well, that took him a long time to write a book. 1998 he left, and then he didn't get it published until 2002.
Yeah.
And what we were doing in that time was we were going out and trying to find out whether there was a definitive pathway to success that everyone agreed on.
Yes.
And we couldn't find one. We found over 350. We were working with Warwick Business School at the time. And we basically cleared our dining room out for about 6 months and get every formula we could find. I think in the end there was about 400. And our aim was to get it down to a business card. And I hadn't prepared this because I didn't know you were going to cover it, but sure enough, I'm not even sure you can read this, but I'll tell you what's on it. We got it down to a business card size. The formula for guaranteed success is, you probably can't read that, know where you want to go,
just about.
Know where you are now, know what you have to do to get to where you want to go, and then do it. And we did it. And that is a summary, of every success formula out there. And Reg, it's a summary of what you've done since this morning. I know it's probably, late afternoon there now?
Well, it's 1:15, midday here.
Midday. Oh, is it? Are you only 3 hours? Of course, you're only. Yes, sorry, I keep thinking you're way, way, way ahead. Yeah, you're only a few hours ahead. But basically, everything that everyone watching this does every single day, they follow that formula. From getting out of bed in the morning to making lunch to, as somebody famously said to me at a school, going to the loo, and basically everything we do. So what we wanted to do was put it into people's conscious mind that success is a matter of choice and not a matter of chance.
I like that. And later on in the book, I mean, as you know, we work with a lot of family businesses, and today I wanted to leave people with something that can help either at a family level or business level or both. And maybe I've got a proposal for you, which is to maybe co-author The Naked Family with you. So,
love to.
So I would like to know, you've got here, leaders are born and not made. Is that true?
Well, of course, because everyone's a leader. So we're all born. Did I really say leaders are born and not made? Leaders
are born and not made. Well,
yeah, that's because everyone's a leader.
Yeah, well, that's a heading that you make later on in the book. It goes in a different direction, but at the end of the day, you are talking about how we all have potential. Yeah, but
first of all, Reg, you get an Oscar for without doubt knowing my books better than I do. So I really, really appreciate that. Somebody came up to me recently and said, in Naked Leader, you said that consultants were blood-sucking vampires. I said, did I? Oh my God, that was a bit extreme. I said, but that was with all due respect to vampires. I don't necessarily remember everything I say, but basically what I'm saying is that on the day we're born, we're only born with 2 fears. Every single person's only born with 2 fears: a fear of falling over, which you need in order to learn to walk, and a fear of loud noises, which you get over by the time you're a teenager.
Right.
Every other fear we've made up. So what I'm saying is that inside every single person watching this now is a completely unlimited strength. They have unlimited strengths, passions, and genius. And that's why we exist, to unlock that in everyone on earth. Because basically we're on this earth for a very short period of time. The chances against us being born are pretty unique, 1 in 10 trillion to the power of 4, from Richard Dawkins at Oxford University. Most people don't make it through. Hey, I think people are amazing. And
I get it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And one of the big things you talk about is abandoning doubts and uncertainty. So if you think about the crisis right now, what's going on around the world, I think your books have become even more relevant. And I recommend anyone, if you haven't read it, go and get a copy. But if you've got it in your library like I have, reread it. So could you tell us about what you're witnessing with clients, organizations, and how with the Naked philosophy and principles, how you're helping them? What's happening out there for you?
Well, I think the main thing, first of all, the formula for guaranteed success and my books are nothing to do with positive thinking. It does help actually with your health if you think positively, but that aside, you can use know where you want to go, what's your outcome, know where you are now, be realistic about where you are, know what you have to do, get it down to 1, 2, or 3 choices, and then actually get off your backside and do something. So many people talk about doing stuff, but they don't actually do it. So that framework works perhaps even more effectively when you have to do something as opposed to when you may want to do something. So it works throughout. In terms of what organizations are facing right now, I think they're all facing one big issue. How can they get far more from the people they've already got without killing them?
Right.
Because most organizations at the moment, aside from furlough, do you have furlough over in this is where the government pays 80% of somebody's salary, but it's on condition they don't do anything.
No.
Oh, this is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. Basically, 80% of salaries are being paid, but the people are not allowed to work. So it's in order to make organizations survive. But of course, because the people aren't working, the organizations are at risk, which is quite bizarre. However, what we're experiencing is panic.
Yeah.
We're experiencing fear. We're experiencing worry.
Yes.
What we'd say is this, that basically worry about anything without doing something is, if you think that's going to change anything, you're living on a different planet in a different solar system. Just do something and see if it works. The main things to do are get back to why you started your business in the first place. Become a force for good. If you're not a force for good in this new business age, you're pretty much finished. So what is it you do for charities? What is it you do to help each other, aside from the business element of what you do? If you've got employees, get the best out of them by basically, and the big thing for us, Reg, going forward is most organizations of every size wrap people around the organization. So they say, this is how our organization works, fit in with that. We think the big thing in the future of every size company, by the way, is to wrap your organization around your people. So for example, we only have 3 employees in Naked Leader, but we have hundreds of coaches. But every single one of those coaches, we're in touch with them and we're saying, how can we best serve you? Once this is over, how can we best serve you now? And the other thing is, reinvent yourself online as quickly as possible, because this ain't going away. This is not going away. There's going to end up to be a balance. You get a balance whereby, a drive from Abu Dhabi to Dubai for a 1-hour meeting on that lovely road that I've been up and down many, many times. It ain't going to happen. You're going to use Zoom for that. But on the other hand, are people going to have personal interaction again? Yes, we just don't know when. And I know, look, with all due respect to the health situation and the people who are losing their lives and the families of those people, it's quite exciting not to know what happens next. I mean, we're living through a fascinating time in history. Again, with all due respect, we're, as you know, Reg, our charity arm is doing everything we can for the NHS and well-being and all that sort of stuff. So I mean that hugely differential to that. But on the other hand, who knows? I'll never forget, I was talking to school, Reg, about 2 years ago, and I said, the great thing is nobody knows this is before the pandemic, obviously. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. And this little girl shouted out, I know what's happening next. I've got double French. And I just thought that was brilliant. And my attitude is, if you don't know what the future is, to a large extent, we can shape it. But that's, again, with all due respect to all the people that you serve, Reg, who are feeling really low right now, who are not quite sure what to do. I'm saying this, we've got enough to worry about in reality at the moment. We don't have to worry about other stuff as well. And it's the ones that come up with a plan of some kind and go for it who will see through this. Sorry to give you such a long answer.
No, I love it. I think the more you talk, the more, things are popping in my head, and hopefully with the viewers, they're also getting some ideas and opening up their brains, because there are many owners that I know right now in Africa, Middle East and South Asia, where a lot of our clients are at the moment. And apologies, for viewers who could be watching from other parts of the world, but in the region that we know, there are a lot of people who've got their head in the sand. The owners, the leaders have got doubt. They're not sure. They're living in uncertainty. So the concern there is, if they're doing that, what are they doing with their organization?
Exactly. And I mean, in the Western world, it's interesting split here. It's a generalization, but in the East, and we do a lot of stuff with China and we do a lot of stuff in Asia and what have you, but we're finding people are taking personal responsibility and how can they get out of this, which actually in a way causes you more worry because you take on the ownership and the responsibility. Whereas in the West, we're waiting for the government to sort it out for us. We want the government to sort it out. I mean, that's what they're doing in America and in the United Kingdom. It doesn't matter whether you're in the West or the East. You have to go back to your roots. What is it that you can offer to people?
Yes.
What is it that people want and need that you can offer? How do you get your brand differentiated from other people's brand? In Naked Leader, we basically were up against IBM and EY, I think it was, for a pitch on a shortlist. And we knew we were never going to beat them. So we invented ourselves in the reception area of a York hotel, we completely invented a new sector called Naked Leadership. And we decided we were in that sector now, no one else was, and we weren't consultants anymore. We just changed it Now, I'm not saying that's particularly clever, and it wasn't even my idea, but if the more you can differentiate yourself, the more you can be seen to serve, the more you're a force for good, and the more you keep yourself level-headed, especially if you've got people. If you've got 3, 4, 5 staff and their family members, particularly, and you're seeing them all the time, If they say, oh, I'm panicking, I don't know what to do in the future, and you say, so am I. No, you can't. You have to be certain.
Well,
Even when you're not, Fred, even when you're not.
To make it real, David, I mean, I was just going through a report yesterday to make this relevant. And this report is based on a survey with over 1,000 CEOs and owners of what are the top concerns and issues right now. So number one on the list came up as disrupting cash flow. Okay, number one, 76%. Access to customers in the local country. Third one, lease or debt payments. Then site premises being closed down and dealing with that. Reducing productivity, making payroll, supply chain issues, access to customers abroad, and availability of staff. Yeah, so these are things that owners are dealing with. What are your thoughts around some of those? And if we're applying again the Naked principles, what couple of tips would you give to some of these owners who are going through some of these things right now?
Well, do you need premises? Obviously, if you're manufacturing stuff, you do. But we know in England, a lot of people are abandoning their offices for good. They're saying we don't need to go back there. Yeah. People can work more effectively virtually. What can you really? I mean, I don't know about other people. Different people watching this will be in different stages of lockdown, of course.
Of course.
But if you're in a lockdown situation, I don't know about you, but I have cash in my wallet downstairs I haven't spent for 7 weeks because the people don't want cash in case it has the virus on it. So we've cut our expenses way back. But I mean, you've done a very fair list there. I would say instead of taking that list all in one and putting it on a piece of paper and therefore then not sleeping for 5 nights, yes, what I would do is I would take each and every one of them. I'd apply the formula for guaranteed success. So take each and every one and ask yourself this. Imagine if we simply could not fail, despite where we are, what outcome would we go for? What outcome would we go for? Mm-hmm. Knowing where we are now, see things as they are, but Reg, don't see things as worse than they are. This is absolutely critical. I mean, the power of nightmares is extraordinary at the moment. And don't see things as worse than they are. And also, what resources do you already have? What people do you already have? We did a brainstorm amongst 50 coaches of all the things that we could be doing. And we ended up with about 30 pages of stuff. Then make a decision. I mean, the power of the made-up mind is incredible. And by the way, that decision may be you've got to let somebody go. That decision may be that you have to make a really tough decision and then do it. And the key thing, of course, is keep as much cash as you can, because cash is where organizations survive. It doesn't matter about debt. It does, but in the short term, it doesn't matter about debt or turnover or revenue. It's cash in the bank that you need to keep.
And also, you've said a few things which relate to chapter 29 of your first book, The Power of State.
I can't remember which one that is. Could you remind me?
Okay, I'll remind you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you just said it in a different way there, but you talked about taking control of how we react to external events. You've literally just said that. Ramping up or down the emotion. And I love this one, being centered. The most natural state of being is one of absolute calm, total tranquility and inner peace.
So the way to achieve that is, what I'd like to do, can we do a little session? Is that okay? Interactive session with everyone watching this? Okay, so Reg, what I'd like you to do, and everyone watching this now, please close your eyes. So everyone, please close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, I'd like you to imagine that inner voice coming into your head. This is the one that nags and nags. This is the one that brings you all your worries. And if any of you are thinking, I don't have an inner voice, that's the one. It's now lying to you. So acknowledge that inner voice coming into your head right now. And with complete belief, love, and certainty, just say to yourself in complete silence, thank you. Thank you.
Can I open my eyes?
Actually, please. And you'll feel your voice going quiet. And it's getting quieter. And now it's calm. And with your eyes closed still, say to yourself the following. I allow this moment, in silence, I allow this moment to be as it is. And wherever you are in the world, and whatever you're thinking right now, it could well be that you're starting to feel an incredible moment of being relaxed, centered, and calm. That's right. Very good. Thank you, Reg, for doing that.
I was going to nod off then.
Yes. Well, that's the aim. Well, the aim isn't to get you to nod off. The aim is to take you into a complete state of relaxation. And another tip for anyone out there who can't sleep, working with psychologists in America, I know we're jumping around a bit, Reg, but you are talking about people who are stressed, and the whole point is there's no point in being stressed. You've got to do something about it. So if you use these words when you're lying in bed and you can't sleep, you will fall asleep straight away. Just say to yourself in silence, I allow myself not to sleep.
I like that.
That is hot off the press from the top psychologists in the world. It completely plays with your mind. I allow myself not to do something. It completely screws the mind, and you think, I'll sod it, and you just fall asleep.
I'm still here, by the way. I haven't fallen. I'm still here.
No. Well, you look very relaxed, which is nice.
Can I ask you?
You've always looked young, though, Reg. I've always thought you always look young and dynamic. In fact, you haven't aged at all since I last saw you.
We shared the platform.
I know.
10 years ago in Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka, and you were much better than me, if you remember.
I don't know about that, but
a lot of people are better.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great fun.
It was memorable.
It was memorable. People kept putting flowers around our head. It was lovely. Yeah. But equally, I love coming to Abu Dhabi. I love coming to Dubai. I love the UAE. Yeah.
So
sorry, carry on.
That's okay. Moving on. Leadership by email towards the end of the first book. With the crisis and everything going on right now, and obviously since you published this book, I'm sure email has evolved further with not just email, but WhatsApp messages, Slack, and other tools that people could be using to get messages to people. But one of the key things you talk about is being aware of the impact of the written word, which is always far greater than other forms of communication. Could you talk us through typically the mistakes leaders make by using email, and how that can have a negative impact when they're dealing with their leadership team and workforce?
This is great, Reg, because I don't know what you're going to ask me next. It's just fantastic. So we learn most of the things in life, how to walk, how to eat, how to do stuff, from our parents, from watching other people. But email suddenly arrived, didn't it? It suddenly arrived, and it's become this sort of curse. So I think that the key thing is when you're writing an email is to make it be very clear. First of all, here's some tips. First, be very clear what you want from the person receiving it.
Yeah.
In the old-fashioned mainframe, which you're too young to remember, but in the old-fashioned mainframe, when I used to work,
I saw a big mainframe when I was 17 years of age, maybe 16 years of age.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, my uncle was a techie.
You are older than you look then. So in Cornhill Allianz in Germany, they used to have a button F5 for send and F3 for send to yourself. And we always used to say, write the most aggressive email you want, get it off your chest, and then press F3 and have a little sticker on it. And then revisit that email the following day, and you'll wish you'd never sent it, and you haven't. How to respond to a very aggressive email? You can either don't, but if you really want to respond, just say thank you. I mean, that is just, who can complain about an email like that? But you know what? Email's been overtaken since my book was written by, this is by the way a BlackBerry. There are a few around.
I've got 6 of those in the garage, and I shifted to Android.
Oh yes,
months ago from my BlackBerry.
Well, BlackBerry's now gone Android.
Yeah.
BlackBerry is now Android, and it's got a keyboard. But the reason WhatsApp is personal, it's much quicker. You can have WhatsApp groups, but in terms of generally, if I can generalize this out, Reg, I think the most powerful thing that all your family members can do and all your family businesses can do as individuals is ask for help, and have one contact outside the family that you can go to, that you can just download to or ask for advice. Seriously, we find this with a lot of family businesses. We're a family business. My wife, me, and our next door neighbor is our PA. So we decided not to become a big sort of employee company, but I've always got somebody outside of that domain. So it's Rosalind.
So what's it like working with your wife then? I mean, my wife is a director in we're a family business. Our eldest son has just joined us as well. So we're a family business. So what advice have you got for people, husband and wife team working together, do's and don'ts?
First of all, I'd always have a third person. We have a lady over there, Bridget, who does our project management. She's an independent. Have a third person in the event of dispute. Secondly, whereas we started thinking the office is the office and the children aren't allowed in there and whatever, don't do that. People, she and I talk about work anytime, and equally we can take time off anytime. You know, so obviously it's different during the pandemic, but maybe a month ago, I remember a Wednesday afternoon, she said, I know you're writing this afternoon, but you fancy going to see this film instead, so we go to the cinema on a Wednesday afternoon, but equally I might be up at 2 o'clock in the morning finishing a pitch. But by far the most important thing, I think, is to basically realize that if Ros and I have a disagreement and we can't resolve it, she's right.
There you go. End of episode, everyone. Did everyone
That's
get
right.
that?
Yeah. She's right. Yeah. But it's much simpler, and if I can't persuade her and Bridget, the third person, can't persuade her, then just let her be right. It's much simpler in our life.
Just going back to the written word, by the way, you helped me many years ago, because when I read this book, there was this bit where you said about, never, and you mentioned never send an email reply when you're angry. And what you said earlier is absolutely spot on, is actually draft it, do your vomit copy, get it out, save the draft and leave it and come back to it. And you're absolutely spot on, which is in that moment of sending, you've created a war with that person, because they'll respond and they want to be right and they'll make you wrong. And you keep going back and forth on this email thread and ruining the relationship.
I'd actually take it one stage further beyond email. I'd say in life, don't go out seeking friends. Be a friend. Treat everyone with love, respect. Everyone you meet with love, respect, and unconditional kindness. I think that is. Then it gets over this issue of what other people think of you. I mean, who cares what other people think of you? Well, you do. So you don't have to anymore, because it doesn't matter what they think of you, because you'll be thinking highly of them. And you're right, it's the only jargon we use in Naked Leader, which is reciprocity, which basically means if you're kind to somebody else, they'll be kind to you. And we try to put this into practice in everything that we do. We go into organizations. We've got one at the moment I was talking to last night, Reg, and they said 9 out of every 10 of our projects are failing, David. And I said, tell me about the 10th. Tell me about the ones that succeed, because organizations tend to want to learn from failure over and over again. That's fair enough, but it never works. Learn from success. What is it you do well? As a family owner, what is it that you've got within you as a sort of passion or a strength or a talent or a potential that you're not using at the moment? And bear in mind, we're all kind of in the same boat, but the ones that are going to get through this are the ones that come out with something that's going to really help the world. You've got to be a force for good in the world now, or you're pretty much dead.
Love it.
Love it. Using that
Words
word
of wisdom. So your second book, okay, there's a whole section on communication, which I really like. Communication power. And I like this, page 257, conversation power, 15 powerful examples. 1, lying, how to spot a liar.
Did you like that?
Yeah. So no eye contact. His or her eyes will look away. If the room has a door, that's where they'll look. I mean, I'm not going to go through the rest. People are going to have to buy the book and read it. But could you expand on some of these other things you've learned over the years when it comes to effective communication?
Well, Reg, as you know, none of this belongs to us. We realized very early on that there's a wealth of stuff out there, basically dressed up. This is another reason it was Naked, dressed up in all this jargon and mystery, and so when it comes to spotting a liar, we're allowed to say this. We work with several intelligence services and communities, and they basically have 144 pages on how to spot a liar, and we just basically looked at that and we got it right down to the absolute essence. So although we sometimes sound like we're making stuff up in Naked Leader, and we're a little bit maverick and different, we have a wealth of psychologists around us. A few other things to spot a lie. They'll always go into more detail than they have to. Eye movements. Check out eye movements. Neurolinguistic program. Eye movements. But my favorite chapter in that book, I think it's is it chapter 15? Can you have a look? How to lose weight? Not that you need it, but I just thought.
I do actually, because you don't know what's happening below the line here.
Is it chapter 15? Have a quick look.
Chapter 15, yeah, how to lose weight. Page. Can you read
the entire chapter to people, please?
The entire chapter?
Yes.
All right, here we go. There's only one page in this chapter.
Don't spoil it. Carry on and read it.
How to lose weight. Inspiration number 15. Burn off more energy than you can consume, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then brackets, don't tell anyone. This is clearly a big secret. made very complex diet books, and some food manufacturers.
There you go. Sorry, I'm quite proud of that chapter. And that chapter's got quite a story, because I asked our son, Anthony, for a whole summer to go and investigate everything he could about how to lose weight. And by the way, it's not just lose weight, be the perfect weight. You might want to put weight on. And basically find out all this stuff, and basically come up with a single line. And he did. Burn off more energy than you consume. And if you want to put on weight, then burn off less energy than you consume. Duh.
But you know what? You know when you said there's nothing really new under the sun, but I think with your
Have
book,
I said that? Did I say that in my book? No, what I said was all our stuff is borrowed from other people.
Yeah. So there's nothing like I
think there is new stuff. I think there is new stuff. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I mean by that. I don't think there's anything new under the sun, but there was a famous film called Flash of Genius, which is about the guy who invented alternating flash windscreen wipers, and he sued Ford, and basically Ford nicked his idea because they said it's got no new ideas in it. And in the courtroom, he read out the first words of A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Was that Tale of Two? Anyway, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And his argument was none of those words are new, but what the author did was it's the sequence they put them together. So I think, although there may not be any brand new ideas, there are great ideas that seem new by combining lots of existing stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what I meant by that was if you take philosophies and principles or steps or guides, there isn't really anything new. If you want, like you and I, if you end up reading 2,000-3,000 books in your lifetime, it's pretty much all there, but people will say it in different ways. In your case, you've simplified things. I love steps, I love lists, I love a few bullet points. It's easy. But you're right. Other things could be if I take my mug here and we put a screen on it, okay, and I write about technology and how messages in real time pop up on my cup every day when I have a coffee or tea. Now, okay, that could be new.
It's based on existing stuff, but somebody's thought about different ways of connecting things.
Yeah.
We have a phrase in Naked Leader: just because everything changes doesn't mean it hasn't been this way before. And you're spot on. You're spot on. Which is why we take everything back to basics. We take everything back to people being themselves, and being their natural selves. And people are geniuses. I mean, everyone's a genius.
Can I ask you, David, outside of the book and your experience, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, running a small family business yourself, what's been some of the biggest mistakes you've made the last 20, 30 years? And you could give some guidance to other people watching this.
Well, it's taken me many years to master, and I haven't even mastered it yet, being a speaker. And I've made some huge mistakes on stages. Mm-hmm. I once did the same event in the morning and the afternoon for Royal and Sun Alliance in Liverpool. Mm-hmm. And it was a different audience, and some people came back the second time because they obviously enjoyed the morning. And I said, can I just point out this is the same as the morning? In fact, I've got to repeat everything I said in the morning. I said, how boring is that? Which of course managed to insult every single person in that room who'd come along for the afternoon. But again, I've learned, I've made mistakes in almost everything I've done. I'll never forget when we won some business with, I won't say who, a major retail company, and we said, and we can turn around your Glasgow branch in 3 months. And the guy said, wow, that's amazing. And then I said, and also Leeds. I mean, talk about having a sale in your hand. So I've made many, many, many mistakes. But you know what? If you don't make mistakes, you're never going to move forward, because some of our mistakes have turned out to be genius by accident. Now, the book took off because the book's the fast selling business book of the world, not because it's got the word naked in it or because it's particularly good. It's because a professor once sent an email to 31,000 students telling them not to buy the book. Exactly the moment it went on Amazon, 11,000 did. But the two days later, flushed with our newfound fame, which I really couldn't handle, we decided to hold a chief executive dinner. So we sent, now get this, Reg, and I hope your families will enjoy this story. We thought, right, how many do we want for a dinner? Well, we want 8. So how many invitations do we need to send out to get 8 chief executives to give up an evening for a dinner? Mm-hmm. 20 should do it. I mean, those sort of proportions are ridiculous. So we sent out 20 invitations, but guess what happened? We didn't put enough money on the stamp. We did this lovely embossed invitation. We booked this private room at the Savoy, and we were 1p short on the stamp. So every one of those chief executives, PAs or whoever, had to pay a penny if they wanted to receive our letter. And they were absolutely furious. I'll never forget, Rosalind picked me up from a gig, and she said, before we go, we've made a real screw up. She said, and then she said, and 6 of them want you to personally apologize to them. I said, what, 6 chief executives want me to ring them? Yeah, 3 want you to go and buy them a coffee, and 3 want you to apologize. By the 3rd day, we had 16 of them complaining.
Wow.
And so I went to meet with them. I gave them their penny, which I'd wrapped up in special paper, and we had 2 dinners, not 1. So I think what I'm saying to you, Reg, and everyone here is sometimes things that don't look as if they're going to work actually do work. I mean, X-rays were invented by mistake. Post-it notes were never intended to be half sticky. My favorite character in movies, this person here took 2 years to get on screen because Frozen was shown to preview audiences with this person as the baddie, and they hated it. And they hated it. And so so basically what I'm saying is that think to yourself, how does this event help us? And I know this is huge. In Naked Leader, Rosalind and I are now going walking every day. We used to go out on a Sunday, but we're now walking every day. And she always says to me, or I say to her, how does where we are in the pandemic help us, Naked Leader, to help the world? Which is a far better question to ask yourself, more empowering question than what could go wrong again tomorrow? Because whatever you ask yourself, you'll get an answer. So I think a critical question for family businesses is, how does what's happening at the moment help us in our business? And if more people ask those questions, more people would come through this.
Love that. Really good insights. And David, when it comes to being in the knowledge based industry, being an expert, being authority, how do you see things now changing for the future when it comes to your business and how you'll add value to clients?
Well, we introduced a thing a little while ago, Reg, that basically the key, the golden nugget, let's put it that way, is to get your existing people to basically actively choose to do what you really need them to do. Forget telling people what to do. Forget all these waste of time change programs. You may as well just flush money down the toilet. If you don't get your people to actively choose to do what you really need them to do, then you're finished. So that's the first key. The second I've gone on and on and on about, which is be a force for good. The third is simplify. Simplify, simplify, simplify. If you can't explain what you do or what you stand for or who you are in one sentence, then basically you may as well give up. It's quite funny because the last gig I did before lockdown was the annual conference for BDO, the huge accounting firm.
Absolutely, yeah. And
the chief executive stood up at the beginning and he said, I've been allocated 30 minutes before David comes on. He said, this is what I want to say to you all. Be yourselves, always, and let other people be themselves. And then he got off the stage. That's the message. That's the message. So simplify, simplify, simplify. Do you know why, Reg, as well?
Yeah.
Because I used to think that people fell asleep when they watched a PowerPoint presentation where somebody stood on the stage and just read every item. I used to think people were bored. They don't. They fight against it. We actually fight against things we do not understand. So make it simple. And you very kindly made comments about my first 2 books there being very simple. The proofreaders for my books, the first book was my 5-year-old daughter and my 9-year-old son. And the second book was when they were a few years later. My latest book is 2 boys next door who are aged 14 and 11. If there's any words in there you don't understand, those words are coming out. And I did. I took them out.
Yeah, well, you know what? That I think is the secret. I think that is the secret because majority of people in the world, they don't want to be able to look at complicated words. Some people like to write these books with so many complicated words. That's not, as they say, if an 8-year-old can't understand it, there's no point doing it. So exactly. I think what you're doing is great. Now, and towards the end of the second book, I think everyone should read this because it's so relevant with the crisis. You've got the next business greats, inspiration 41, page 345. You talk about cause over cash, clarity over confusion, choice over change. This is so relevant with the crisis right now. And you talk about your future, your chance, regardless of economic conditions, challenges and constraints, future success can be yours. Could you expand on what was going on for you when some of these areas of the last section of the second book? Clarity over confusion, choice
Although,
over change.
Reg, we're in the middle of a huge thing, pandemic at the moment. We've had lots of recessions, and we're going to have one again. And when I wrote the second book, I think that it was in the wake of, the first book was published in the wake of 9/11, and the second book was published, I think, with a sort of follow-on recession that we had from that. And we just thought, within the formula for guaranteed success, what are the keys? And so we said, so cause over cash, what do you stand for, rather than profit, growth, etc. You'll make more money. This is the bizarre thing. If you have a cause that people believe in, you'll make more money anyway. So why not put it first? With regard to know where you are now, clarity over confusion goes back to what the phrase we use in Naked Leader is: if you use any word that's not understandable by an 8-year-old or a golden retriever dog, then don't use it. Choice over change, forget change. I mean, change never works. It never has worked. It never will work because it's meaningless. It means different things to different people. It's insulting because it usually involves people telling people that there's something wrong with them. And basically, wouldn't you rather have deep root canal surgery without anesthetic than do another total quality management initiative? So what are your choices? Choice is so empowering. What are they? And people always have more choices than they may believe. And we've since introduced a fourth one, which is customers over convenience. Don't think about how you run your organization. Think about how your customer doesn't care how you run your organization. I mean, there's another mistake I made, Reg. In the early days, people used to say to me, I get at the door of Tesco because when the book went to #1. And Terry Lee, he said, tell me all about Naked Leader. And I did. And 8 minutes later, he said, I really didn't mean that. You're not supposed, you're in the room, David. You don't have to sell yourself. So when people say, tell me all about your company, they don't want to know. They want to know what you can do for them.
Yes.
So that's what was there. And
can I ask you then, with the second book? I mean, I don't have the others in my library here, but could you talk us through how the series has evolved and what the Naked Coach is about? What is the Naked Millionaire about? Obviously, the title says it all. But what's in those books?
So very simply, the Naked Leader, as you know, is a business-honed book, mainly made simple. Naked Leader Experience is more of a sort of balanced life, all areas of people's lives made simple. The Naked Coach, which I couldn't believe nobody had taken, by the way, Rich, I couldn't believe the Naked Coach was available. That's coaching made simple. And for example, our definition of coaching is, which has got thousands of definitions out there. The coaching definition is any and every intervention that enables your people, teams, and organizations to be their very best. Let's not get too worried about facilitation, mentoring, and whatever. So that strips away the hype around jargon and mystery around coaching. The Naked Millionaire is how to be rich, not just with money, but also to be rich spiritually and to be rich by helping other people and to basically have a fulfilling life. And of course, my favorite, because it's my latest, is how to be successful by being yourself, which is basically realizing the power of yourself and your subconscious and the skills and the strengths and the passions that you've already got.
Love that.
And that's
definitely going to get
shorter
a
book.
copy of that. I haven't read that, so look
Thank
forward
you, Reg.
to reading that book. But just for the record, for people around the world, the Naked brand is a metaphor. Yeah, there's nothing in the books that is going to be offensive. There's nothing to do with literally getting naked, is there?
No. And in Eastern Europe, they often sort of have a bit of a go at me about this. And of course, I'm well aware in Muslim countries and in other countries, the word naked is considered almost to be offensive. But the naked is about your mind. It's about stripping away jargon, hype, and mystery. It's about going right back to yourself and returning to yourself. And of course, there's lots of nakeds in the world. I mean, you've got so many naked companies springing up. But no, the Naked is, despite the cover of Naked Millionaire and Naked Coach that you're now looking at, I can absolutely assure you that there is nothing offensive in these books whatsoever. And as a child said in a school, that when I was talking to a child in school in Hong Kong about 2 years ago, and I said, look, I want to reassure you that there's nothing offensive about naked. And this child shouted out, well, it's only you adults that have made naked a rude word, not us children. And I thought that was so key. Yeah.
So tell me about this one here. I decided to make 10 of them on the screen because I thought if I had 10 notes like that in my wallet, I'd be a happy man.
You really are springing stuff on us. So one of the things that we talk about is getting 3 times more value, confidence, and agility from the people you've already got. And when it comes to value, we believe everything can be financially measured. And we say, if anyone in your organization says it can't be financially measured, and they talk about intangibles, then pay them with intangible money. Now, I made this joke at a talk for, I think it was Ford, and the chief executive of Ford said, can you let us have some intangible money, please? Because we've still got some people. So we printed off these £1 million notes from Naked Leader. Yeah. And basically, as a joke, whenever somebody said something's not measurable, they said, here's your money, and it's kind of taken off with quite a few client business partners. So we have plenty of this, but sadly, it's not actually legal tender.
Yes. Well, I think
you throw me today. You've quoted from my book, and you've put those up. So I really appreciate it, Reg, and it's a real pleasure to talk to you. And I hope, quite frankly, that maybe one or two things I've said, because it's not thought-provoking stuff. This is action-provoking. I'm not really interested in thought-provoking because at the moment, a lot of your families need to know exactly what to do. So,
I think it's been great. I could talk to you for hours. Maybe as we wrap up, could you just share a little bit about what your organization does? How do you help companies? Obviously, we'll make sure in the description section, all the details are there of how people can find you. But just briefly, what could you do for companies if they want to track you down, get in contact with you?
Well, I don't like doing sales pitches, but in essence, we basically ensure that every organization gets 3 times more value, confidence, and agility from the people they've already got, with 3 times less cost, stress, and time. And in doing that, we basically focus on people making decisions for themselves, behavioral choice, so you get people to make very fast change, very, very fast and lasting change. And our ultimate aim as we're moving forward is to get organizations to be self-leading, to not even need organizations like ours, so that they're completely self-leading going forward.
That's great. Well, I look forward to inviting you to future virtual live events online.
And I want to share a real live event with you one day again, Reg, and I'll learn again from a speaker much better than myself. And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most humble people around, and he does a great deal for the world. And thank you, Reg. It's an honor to be on your program.
David, thank you very much. Last question I've got, and we'll close off, is what's your succession plan, and what's your legacy plan for the future?
Well, we're very fortunate, Reg, that we're partnering at the moment with some people who have got the time and the ambition and the money that we don't have, who are going to take Naked Leader around the world in a franchising and licensing. So if you want to talk about the license for Dubai, we'll talk separately.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, David, thank you very much. For those of you watching, I hope you got some tips, got some ideas, got some wisdom. Check out David's books, check out his website. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you found this useful, hit the like button, share the video, leave some comments on what was the most valuable thing you picked up from the episode. And we'll see you next time on the channel. David, thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
See you again soon.
Thank you, Reg.